Hi guys, welcome to my endgame guide to the Storm class. I switched over to the Storm from the Colossus quite some time ago now and have been really surprised by how fun it is to play if you persist with it. The Storm's a little bit fragile in the early levels of Anthem and can be a bit frustrating to play if you are like me, used to being in the thick of the fight and dealing as much damage as possible. But I would recommend persisting with it, just because once you get to end game territory and you can kit it out and become super powerful, he or she is a real force to be reckoned with, who can deal some serious damage and be a huge asset to the squad. The Storm works really well in terms of taking out large amounts of annoying little enemies, but its ultimate ability can also be quite crucial in taking out big bosses as well. So it's got quite a bit of versatility in terms of combat. I'll just talk you through my build here at the moment. A lot of thought's gone into this build. I've tried lots of different tactics and strategies with the Storm, combining different gear and weapons. And that's one thing I really enjoy about it, because you do have a lot of scope to do different things. Your focus is probably always going to be around combos. That's where you deal your most damage. So your blast seal and your focus seal are referring to your primers and your detonators essentially. So your blast seal is your L1, that sets up an area effect that you can then later detonate, or if you want to help your teammates out, you can just set up area of effect elemental stuff for them to then detonate. And if you think about your squad and what their strengths are, you can really come up with a very strong build for strongholds and things. So the matter at hand, I've got two legendaries for my gear at the moment. The first one I'm going to talk about is Winter's Wrath here. So this is the Ice Storm. Ice Storm is really good because it covers a wide area. You essentially, if you hold down L1, you get 5 or 6 sort of shots in a sphere around where you aim it, and it's normally pretty effective at freezing enemies. So if you're playing Tyrant Mine or something like that, and that bit where the enemies are advancing steadily up the ramp towards you and you can't leave, this is really good because it just stops people dead in their tracks. Because it's a legendary, it's got some additional helpful things for the Storm as well. It increases the gear speed by 30%, so you get your attacks out faster. And it also increases the speed of your support attacks as well, which is important for me, which you'll see why when I talk about my support build. So that's that. It's really good. And my focus seal, I've been using this one quite a long time now. It's an upgraded glacial spear, so this is a chargeable one-shot attack, which is very powerful. This particular one, inscription wise, is fantastic because it deals an additional 200% damage on your gear, as well as another 50% gear damage just for the crack, and that's a really good combination of things. I favour over the Black Ice and the Frost Shards just because it has quite a good explosive effect as well. So once you've primed your enemies with the Ice Storm, you set off a chain combo with this and you are wrecking boys before you know it. So gear is the most important part of the Storm style. You're going to be using your L1 and R1. I think that's the case for most javelins actually. Once you get to end game, these are what you favour. Weapons wise though, I've gone for a Masterwork as my primary. This is an upgraded Relentless light machine gun. The good thing about the Storm is it can utilize pistols, it can use assault rifles, light machine guns. It just can't use the heavy weapons that only the Colossus can. So what you're going to want is something that has a little bit of range, and then maybe something for when you get up close and personal. So I've chosen this one here because, again, it detonates combo explosions on primed targets. So using my L1 ability, I can switch between using my gun to detonate a combo explosion while waiting for my R1 attack to charge, which I really like. It also has a shield boost. The Storm can be a little bit of a glass cannon, quite fragile, so anything that boosts your shield or your armor is very helpful. And for my secondary, I've got my legendary shotgun. I really like this because if you charge your shot and hit a target with all 8 of your shotgun pellets, you get a 35% shield boost, which is super useful if you're in the thick of it, up against it, and you're about to die. You whip this out and you can keep your shields up, provided you're doing lots of dodging and hitting people accurately. Components is where the storm really comes into its own. So I've got almost all masterwork loadout here, with legendary, one legendary in there. I won't go through all of them in great detail, but the key features for me that are important in the component build is armor boosting and shield boosting, as well as increasing your combo damage from your gear. So as I quickly scroll down here, you can see that's really what I've gone for. I've got a little bit of shield boost, a little bit of gear recharge rate boost, elemental damage resistance. I might change that if I get something better, but that's there. You can increase gear damage by 50% and lower the recharge rate. Again, super useful. My legendary is perfect for my current build, which is predominantly frost on both attacks. So this increases ice damage by 5% and ice effect by 5%. Applying ice effects increases your weapon damage by 30% for 20 seconds. So again, just using that assault rifle that detonates your combos alongside these 2 gear slots is quite good strategy that I really enjoy. And it's all about combo chaining. You want to just take out as many enemies in a group as possible, so that's what my build is geared towards. Support seal, your options are wind wall or quickening field. I see a lot of storms using wind wall. I don't really like it. I don't like it at all. It basically, what that does is it places a barrier in front of you and an enemy. Some storms like to use this for bosses, so you place a wall. It's not much use for you as the storm because you're going to be hovering above the wall, so it's kind of as a favour to your friends. But I find it to be too fragile, too easily broken, and it takes too long to recharge, and it doesn't last very long. So for me, quickening field is what I really like to use. This basically increases your gear recharge rate by 1/5, so 20% faster. It also boosts your armor with the one that I have too, and it just enables you to get your combos out faster. And if you decide to go down onto the ground and help your buddies out, if they're in the area, it will also increase their gear recharge rate as well. So it's quite a powerful support thing to have. Well, so that's me. I've talked about everything. I'm really fond of this build, but there's always change that can be going on. I was using ice and lightning in combination, then ice and fire for a while. I really like what I've got going on now because the recharge rates are just perfect. You can pretty much just be alternating between your L1 and R1 almost non-stop, especially when you add in quickening field as well. So let's get into some combat now so I can demonstrate some of this to you. So I'm using my Ice Storm here to prime various targets. This works very well if you have a group. And then I'm going to detonate that with the Glacial Spear. These are both legendaries, and I've got the components that boost ice damage and also increase the damage from the Glacial Spear once you prime the target. We're also able to chain the combos together if you've got a group. And my primary weapon can also, once the target's primed, create a little bit of electrical damage as well. So we're doing a lot of damage right here, taking out boys without even having to set a foot on the ground. And go in for the cheeky melee, which is very effective when you have an ice build. And I gotta say, even though my build is predominantly frost damage, I'm really enjoying it. Because with the components that I've chosen, you can do some serious damage with the combinations just of gear. And currently I don't really need to use my weapons much. But let's say my health gets a little bit low. One of my legendary weapons is this shotgun, which on hitting a target boosts your shield by 25%. And that's something that gets me out of a jam pretty easily. So if there are people around you, they can have their gear recharge much faster.
Still thinking of a plan. Take your time.
I prefer this to the wind wall because I find it a little bit just too fragile. And also awkward to set up, and it doesn't last a very long time. so I tend to avoid that. One problem you're seeing, because the storm is up in the air, you are open season for scouts and snipers. So you're going to want to try and take those out pretty quickly before you get back to a big group of enemies. Okay, so although I'm doing a fair bit of damage, I'm just going to back off a little bit here so I can activate my quickening field. Activate it, rather. Just to get my gear recharging a little bit quicker, deal even more damage. And quickening field is useful as well because, as you can see, it gets your gear to enable you to have more combos, which boosts your ultimate faster. So I think it's my favorite support ability for the storm.
We can hold down this area. You know it.
Okay.
What else to say, really? I mean, I'm playing this current mission by myself. If I was playing with others, I'd be looking to work with them. Freeze as many enemies as possible to set up combos for, say, the Interceptor. Storm and Interceptor work very well together, so if I'm playing in a squad and I see an Interceptor knocking about, I tend to go off with them to take out a lot of the aggro out. And the other thing you can do is if you're playing with a Colossus who's got the battle cry, and then they can take a lot of the enemies going to them, you can just follow the Colossus around and take out all the wee lads. So we don't get swamped when we're taking out the big enemies. This is awesome. I just wanted to show when you have a big group of enemies together how the storm can just be such an asset to the squad. So I'm setting up primers for my teammates who just joined me. Same time as getting some big damage in from my own detonators here. Yes!
We need to collect those fragments.
You need to shut up, Bryn. Having too much crack wrecking boys.
Hey, remember when this was supposed to be an easy mission?
Was it? Anyway, I need some time. Till later, freelancer.
Till next time, Bran.
Every time. Alright, thanks guys. I will see you later. Signing off.